The Vancouver Convention Centre expansion project transcends the traditional expression of a green roof by creating a living, breathing ecological system, or a living roof. Well, we really like the idea of the folded plain landscape on the roof because for us it helped to tell the story of how the habitat that is of Stanley Park and the North Shore Mountains, and it kind of rolls and folds up and down as it moves around the Bay Shore and around Harbour Green, which is the park adjacent. And as it folds through Harbour Green and folds up onto the plaza of the convention centre, and then folds really up onto the roof, it becomes part of that greater landscape. It's actually part of the Stanley Park ecosystem. Even I'd go so far as the North Shore Mountains on the other side of Cole Harbour. It's all part of this bigger ecosystem. And when we can begin to link all those ecosystems together, we get a much greater diversity of insect and bird life. And that helps us in the long run through pollination and the way plants grow. So we came up with the idea of creating test plots, and they were essentially 12-foot square boxes that were raised up off the ground. We got a lot of great information from the test plots. They helped us form a list of plants that we were finally going to use. This was another unique part of the project in that we were using 24 different species of native herbs and grasses, some of which had never been commercially propagated before. We were basically waiting for the plant to grow, come into flower, go into seed, and then seed collectors would collect the seeds, typically in the fall. Interesting enough, now that the project is finished, a lot of those plants that had never been commercially produced are now grown, and you could buy them in your garden center. We had fairly significant planes on this roof, some in excess of an acre, acre and a half. So if you can imagine on a big rainy day, and it's been raining for a couple of days, how much water would begin to flow down that roof plane. And we went back to nature and looked at how a stream flows down a hillside, and we saw that a stream kind of meanders down the hillside, and we thought, well, this could be quite an interesting way to collect water. Let's just create a stream, and in this particular case, because it's an architectural form, we'll do them as kind of triangular shaped runnels is what we call them. That's one of the benefits of the roof, is that it's a big sponge. Even when it's soaking wet, it still takes the water just that much longer to make its way through the growing medium and into the runnel and down into the drain. We're not actually draining into the city stormwater system. We're taking the water that then is cleaned by the roof and putting it directly into Cole Harbour, and it actually benefits the marine habitat that's at the base of the building. Even though we based our design on the idea of a coastal grassland, we didn't copy a coastal grassland. We said coastal grasslands survive in very dry, very sandy or poor soils. Well, we've got a very dry soil condition. We've got very sandy soils up on the roof. The fundamental idea was that of a coastal grassland on a roof. We realized the notion that we could create this beautifully sculpted roof that would remain looking exactly the way it did day one was not a possibility. And so we selected our plant species and put them in the ground with the idea that they would actually grow and change and move, and some would die out and some would come up in other places. In a sense, the roof year to year, season to season, and even month to month would change. So if the grasses would grow into the beech strawberry, and the sedums would find their places up against the dry spots, and the aster would enjoy a sloped area. And that's one of the neat things about this roof, is that it does really, really embrace nature and embrace the way nature changes over time. What we've done is to look at those plants as they seed themselves and watch them and see whether or not they're actually forming monocultures. We had a plan in place as part of our maintenance program to recognize them and then remove them. And I think one that comes to mind that's always does that is clover. And clover is great for the bees, which we really want to encourage. So we're being very careful to make sure that we remove enough of the clover so that it doesn't take over. But what we've also found is that even though the roof does keep the building cooler through evapotranspiration, the message with the roof, and it's a pretty strong message from us, is that we're in a situation where if we had global temperature change of 1 or 2 degrees, we have significant problems in the world. a living roof or a green roof can actually lower the ambient temperature in the area around the roof 1 or 2 degrees. We would certainly have a big impact on global warming. Part of the job that the convention center roof has to do is to show people that in fact you can do it on a big building like this. Plants themselves take in carbon dioxide, which is what we breathe out, and they give off oxygen, which is what we need. They also cool the environment through evapotranspiration. This was a rainforest at one time, a coastal rainforest, and it got displaced. So we've basically taken 6 acres of land and replaced it with 6 acres of living roof. And so we brought back that habitat for honeybees and for insects. If you'd like to learn more about our honeybees, please see the companion video.